The 13-inch MacBook Pro is finally dead with the introduction of the M3 generation chips. No longer do we have this oddball Pro-named Mac with a non-Pro chip, and replacing it is a more expensive 14-inch Pro-named Mac with a non-Pro chip. Yeah. But what this means is that you can now seemingly get a 14-inch MacBook Pro with a 20% lower starting price than before. However, is the non-Pro M3 MacBook Pro actually a good deal? Or should you pretend it doesn't exist? Let's go over the differences between the M3 and M3 Pro MacBook Pros to find out. First, because they are both 14-inch MacBook Pros, the exterior is basically the same. The dimensions are identical as you might expect, but the weight of the non-Pro M3 is actually a tenth of a pound lighter, mainly due to having just one cooling fan instead of two that the M3 Pro version has. The other exterior difference is the color option. All MacBooks can come in classic silver, but the non-Pro M3 offers space gray as a color choice, while the M3 Pro model now offers the new, darker space black instead. The final exterior difference is in the ports. Most notably, the M3 model has only two USB-C style Thunderbolt 3 ports, while the M3 Pro has three Thunderbolt 4 ports. There's no overall speed difference between Thunderbolt 3 and 4, which mainly differs on the number of displays supported, but that is one fewer port. And they both have HDMI ports, but there is indeed quite a difference in display support. While the built-in screens on the M3 and M3 Pro MacBook Pros are the same 14.2-inch Liquid Retina displays, the M3 version only supports one external display with up to 6K resolution at 60 Hz. That means despite having an HDMI port that can do 4K resolution at 120 Hz, you can't use HDMI and one of the Thunderbolt 3 ports for another display at the same time. The M3 Pro MacBook Pro can support up to two external displays at 6K 60Hz over Thunderbolt, or one over Thunderbolt and another using HDMI to get up to 4K at 144Hz. Alternatively, just connecting one display over HDMI allows you to get up to 8K at 60Hz or 4K at 240Hz. For those who want to hook up two monitors, the M3 Pro is the only way to go. One area where the non-Pro M3 machine is actually superior is battery life. Apple's numbers claim about a 22 to 25% increase in battery life for video playback and wireless web for the M3 model over the M3 Pro. This makes sense since the M3 is less powerful and the battery size of the M3 MacBook Pro is 70 watt-hours, only 2.4 watt-hours less than the M3 Pro's battery. Both machines also come with a 70-watt power adapter as standard, but you can pay $20 more to upgrade to a 96-watt adapter that also supports fast charging, which lets you go from 0 to 50% charge in about 30 minutes. The 96-watt adapter is included for free if you upgrade to the higher tier M3 Pro chip, but more on that in a minute. Speaking of the chip, the biggest difference between these computers is of course the M3 chip versus the M3 Pro chip. The M3 chip in the MacBook Pro comes in a single flavor with an 8-core CPU and 10-core GPU, while the M3 Pro starts at 11 CPU cores and 14 GPU cores, but can be upgraded to 12 CPU cores and 18 GPU cores for $200. Since they are all M3 chips, single core performance should be the same, and just looking at core counts can give us the max theoretical performance increase in a world with perfect scaling, which of course never happens. On Geekbench, we can see that the multi-core CPU performance is about 35% faster on the 12-core M3 Pro versus the 8-core M3. However, the base model with 11 cores is only about 25 to 27% faster than the M3. On the GPU side, the 8-CPU, 10-GPU M3 has around 47,000 metal score, while the 1114 M3 Pro scores around 68,000, which is around 45% faster. Surprisingly, this is more than perfect scaling since 14 is only 40% more GPU cores than 10. So the M3 Pro graphics performance may be benefiting from other related spec improvements compared to the M3, or it could be rounding errors. The 1218 M3 Pro is around 77 to 78,000 or 66% faster than the M3. These are pretty significant bumps. When it comes to engines, be it the Media engine that now supports AV1 decoding or the 16-core Neural engine, there is no difference between Pro and non-Pro M3 chips. Memory is a different story, however, and is now harder to compare as well. The M3 MacBook Pro shockingly comes with just 8GB of memory that you can upgrade to 16 or 24GB for $200 per 8GB. The M3 Pro MacBook Pro's starting memory is 18GB, which means $250 of the $400 price difference is already accounted for just by the memory upgrade. You can also upgrade the M3 Pro's memory to 36GB for $400, which is $200 per 9GB, a slightly better value than the M3's upgrade pricing. Besides the capacity, The M3 has 100 gigabytes per second of memory bandwidth, while the M3 Pro has 150 gigabytes per second. This difference is much smaller than between M2 and M2 Pro, as the M2 Pro's memory bandwidth was 200 gigabytes per second. However, it's hard to tell exactly what effect this difference will have on an application or use case, so don't worry too much about it. Unlike memory, Apple didn't cut back on the storage for the M3 MacBook Pro, starting it out with a respectable 512 gigabytes on the $1,600 base model, same as the M3 Pro's $2,000 base model. However, due to offering another stock model at $1,800 with 1 terabyte of storage, we now have an awkward decline in specs as we go from $1,800 to $2,000 stock models since the storage shrinks back down. Finally, there is a difference in noise levels. Apple's measured idle noise levels show the M3 MacBook Pro at 3 decibels compared to 4 decibels for the M3 Max. Yes, I said Max, but the M3 Pro and M3 Max share the same spec sheet. Earlier, we also noted that the M3 Pro has an additional cooling fan compared to the M3, and some have tested that the non-Pro M3 can reach 6,000 RPM fan speeds under load, while the M3 Pro MacBook Pro fan speeds under load are much slower in the 3,500 RPM range and thus quieter. So while idle noise levels may go to the M3 ever so slightly, noise under load should easily go to the M3 Pro MacBook Pro. Alright, to sum everything up, what you are getting for the $400 price difference is the following. The M3 Pro chip with 3 extra CPU and 4 extra GPU cores, resulting in 25% more CPU and 40% more GPU performance. 10 gigabytes of extra memory. 3 Thunderbolt 4 ports instead of 2 Thunderbolt 3 ports. Support for up to 2 external displays at a higher resolution and refresh rate instead of just 1 external display. A much quieter machine under heavy load. 18 to 25% shorter battery life. A tenth of a pound heavier weight, and the option for space black color instead of space gray. So is it worth it? Well, I'd say if you're in the market for a MacBook Pro and not an Air, then you should probably avoid 8 gigabytes of memory. That means at a minimum you'd spend the extra $200 to get 16 gigabytes on the M3 machine, which is still slightly less than the M3 Pro's 18 gigabytes. On top of that, the M3 Pro's extra 25 to 40% performance gain for the remaining, let's say, $200 or 10 to 15% price difference passes the relative value test. And I also personally place high value on a quiet machine under load, so with all of that added together, I would personally choose the M3 Pro MacBook Pro. I think the non-Pro M3 MacBook Pro doesn't make sense in the long run. It's likely going to have the same starting memory, burst performance, and power efficiency as an upcoming M3 MacBook Air, which will also be more portable and likely silent due to not having a fan. And the 13-inch Air could cost $300 to $500 less. For everyone who doesn't need the performance of an M3 Pro but wants an efficient everyday M3 laptop, I would say just wait for the M3 Air if you can. Or consider a used M1 or M2 Pro MacBook Pro. That could be a great option if you want the sustained performance or display support of a Pro chip but don't want to pay full price for the M3 Pro. Oftentimes, buying a generation older can net you the best value and save you hundreds of dollars. However, be aware that the burst CPU performance of the 8-core M3 could be on par with the 10-core M1 or M2 Pro, so if you care more about battery life than sustained performance under load, you might still want to go with a non-Pro M3 MacBook Pro. If this was helpful, please hit the like button. Thanks for watching and have a great day!